And do they call you and say, does Billy Idol pick up the phone and say, Tommy? Or is
No,
it like done
no,
through,
nothing that
I mean,
formal.
let me ask you this. Did you have a good record contract in the 60s, or were you one of those guys that, like, 40 years later, you're like, 30 years later, you're like, uh-oh, I don't get any money from those songs?
No, honestly, it was pretty good compared to most of the artists back then.
Because you hear stories.
Well, the record company we were with was pretty notorious. Roulette Records was, shall we say, the soprano with hits, musical ones, it was a very, the head of the record company, Morris Levy, was also a very notorious character. And it was an interesting place to make music, but thankfully we did pretty well.
Where did you record a lot of those songs in the 60s? Was it in New York or LA?
Yeah, it was New York, and we recorded at Allegro. But we did a lot of studios, Electric Lady, and gradually during the 70s I went out to San Francisco, and we worked a lot at Fantasy, and several studios in LA, and then back to New York. So we've sort of been all over the place.
You wrote a song for Alive and Kickin'?
Yes. Well, we wrote and produced, myself and Bob King, Tighter Tighter for Alive and Kickin'. And it was the first time we had produced a record outside of Tommy James and the Shondells, and gave it to Roulette, and it went #1, and it was great.
Is there any song now, looking back in the history of music, that you hear on the radio, I should have wrote that one. I wish I had recorded that one.
Oh, lots of them.
Do you do
sure.
any covers in your show, in your normal
Well,
show?
we don't have time to do that really. But one of the songs that really was ours but got away from us was Sugar on Sunday. And that was from our Crimson and Clover album. And we were thinking of doing it as a single. We just didn't feel the album version was finished.
Mm-hmm.
So we were going to doctor it up and release it as a single, and all of a sudden the Click put it out, a group called the Click on White Whale Records, and they went top 10 with it. And that really was one that got away.
All through the years, being in a position that you're in, having #1 records, selling over 100 million albums, that's got to boggle your mind sometime to think that...
Well, not 100 million albums. We sold 100 million records, and that's 45s.
That doesn't matter. It's 100 million.
Yeah, it's a lot of records, yeah.
But you've been able to meet some great people, I'm sure, over the years, or play with some great people. And what are some of the people you've played with or met that you're like, wow, I can't believe I'm here with them?
Oh, man. Well, one of the nights I'll always remember was the night I had a really nice conversation with John Lennon at a BMI dinner, where I was getting the award for Dragging the Line, and he was getting an award for Imagine. And we sort of sat back to back. We were at 2 different tables, and we turned around and noticed each other, and we started to talk and just had a really great conversation. Well, it's, I've met a lot of very historical figures, and so many of them aren't with us anymore. Ed Sullivan and...
Did you play Ed Sullivan's show?
Oh, yeah, many times.
Several
times, I should say.
And that's where Letterman's Theater is now, right?
Yeah, I went back. Will Lee, the bass player on the Letterman show, is a very good friend of mine and plays with us occasionally. And we went to the Letterman show, and I went, backstage and got a chance to look at all the relics from the Sullivan show, and there's still a lot of similarities, but it really was an awesome thing to do the Ed Sullivan show, because it was so scary, and it was live.
Was he scary?
He was
incredibly
scary.
Did he come back and talk to the band or anything?
No, not before the show, but you never knew what he was going to say. I mean, the first time I ever did the Sullivan show, I remember we were working with the Beach Boys the week before, and we had finished up that Sunday, or Saturday in LA, and we were spending Sunday out there, and so actually a couple of the Beach Boys were over. Dennis and one of the others, I don't remember who, was over, and we were at the Hyatt House on Sunset Strip in LA, and Ed Sullivan comes on and says, "Now, right here in our show next week, right here, Tony Jones and the Spondells will be here." Well, first of all, with that, everybody's on the floor dying laughing. But what it meant was he never heard of you, and he can't read. So doing Sullivan and that was our first Sullivan show, and it was one of the scariest moments of my life, because, you mess up the Sullivan show and your career can be over real quick. So we did it, and I remember we did a lip sync of Crimson and Clover. We were one of the few acts that ever got to lip sync because those guys could never have gotten it right if we had tried to do it. We wouldn't have gotten it right, number one. And
I've seen that clip on TV. They play that, don't they? Yep.
And, you know, we did the Sullivan Show, I think 3 times and all. But, you know, we did the presidential campaign with Vice President Hubert Humphrey. And, of course, you know, he and I became as close as you can become, a 21-year-old can become with, I don't know, a 66-year-old guy. And stayed friends right up until his death. And, you know, so many really wonderful people that I've had the opportunity to meet and work with, like Louis Armstrong. I mean, how many guys work with Louis Armstrong, right, in rock and roll? And, you know, just, it's been an amazing 38 years, it really has.
This year, are you taking part in any election stuff? I know there's a whole group of artists going out for John Kerry. I mean, are you involved?
No, I'm not going to do that this year. What's interesting though is our new television show, American Jukebox. The state of New Mexico is going to be our business partner.
Governor Richardson.
Governor Richardson, Bill Richardson, and I've talked to him, and you know, he's a fan, and I'm a fan of his, and. We get it, you know, it really is an amazing thing going on out there, and we'd very much like to set up with New Mexico sort of remember what the Osmonds had in the 70s with Utah, you know, Salt Lake City? Well, that's what we'd like to do. And I really believe that our TV show, because we got to do about 60% of it in New Mexico. So it's going to be very interesting to be involved with state government and see how everything works at that level and do rock and roll at the same time.
So now you said there's going to be some other hosts of the show. Have you picked those other hosts?
We are casting right now. I'm doing, of course, the classic rock section. The show is going to be divided up into 3 segments, classic rock, video rock, and future rock. And I'm doing the video rock, of course, which is 50s, 60s, and 70s. And we want to... you know, a rock and roll lady to do the 80s and 90s, which is really the video.
Pat Benatar.
Well, we're not sure yet. We just don't, that'd be a good one. Yeah. We don't know exactly if it should be a performer or maybe a writer, like from Rolling Stone or something. We've got to, you know, we're still figuring that out. And future rock is going to be, you know, a new band basically every week. It's going to be, we're going to present, the hosts are going to sort of pass the baton to a new group that has, that we think is truly talented and ought to make it. And then basically we're going to download and sell the shows, the music from the shows. And so it's going to be sort of a QVC operation with a, you know, I guess we're a glorified infomercial.
Well, that's
what
all right.
we are, every week.
Well, that's good.
Thank you.
What do you, speaking of what's going on now, what's in your CD player when you drive in your car, when you're at home? What are you listening to that's like anything?
Well, you know,
today?
Listen, my thing is I end up listening to jazz or classical music. Didn't used to be that way, but once you hit 50, that's the law. You know, I don't know what to say.
No Eminem for you?
Not a lot. But, you know.
You got kids that are listening to it? Or?
Well, I have one son, but he's sort of past that too. You know, we're all old at my house. What I'm really trying to say is that most of the stuff that I listen to when I'm alone is not rock and roll. I play rock and roll, and that's sort of, you know, and I listen to it on the radio all the time. But usually the stuff that I really settle in with is much more sedate than that. You know, I'll do Nat King Cole or something. You know.
Before we leave you tonight, because you've been gracious to spend some time with us, the other guys that are touring with you, like Peter Noone. I mean, did you have a relationship with Peter and Herman's Hermits in the '60s, or you didn't know them? Or?
Oh, I knew them well. I did my first big arena date with them, and this was in the summer, June actually, of '66, and we did 2 dates, Montgomery and Birmingham, Alabama, and they were called the Big Bam shows. And it was myself, the Animals, and Herman's Hermits, and I was so flipped out because, you know, a year before that I was selling their records, you know, in a record store.
Right.
And so I was just absolutely flipped out to be working with these guys. So, you know, it's great to be seeing them again.
Back together again?
Yeah.
Well, Tommy, thank you very much for
Thank
talking
you.
to us. TommyJames.com.
Yes, that's right. That's right.
You can
Please
keep up
come.
to date. Thank you for being on the Caswell
Thank you,
Cooke Show,
Ken.
Tommy.
Appreciate it.
All right.